opinions and experiences shared in this podcast are just that, our personal opinions and experiences, and may not reflect official standards of practice. This podcast does not take the place of professional therapy. If you are struggling with mental health, please reach out to a provider near you. The subjects discussed in this podcast may include trauma, abuse, alcohol and drug abuse, anxiety, depression, suicide, and other subjects that may cause emotional reactions. We may also use language not suitable for young ears. The purpose of this podcast is to have frank discussions about mental health in order to show people it's okay to think differently, give people power to change their own lives, and break down barriers between mental health professionals and the rest of the world. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to the Good to Hear podcast. We're going to be talking about our experiences with mental health stuff and how we handle it. I'm your host, Melissa, and my guests today are John and Emily.
Hi.
Hi. Tell a little bit about you, John.
Okay. My name is John. I am the husband of this beautiful host, Melissa. I am 29, about to be 30 here soon, and I work in law enforcement and in the military.
And Emily?
My name is Emily. I am a good friend of the host, and I'm 27, and I am a stay-at-home mother of 3 boys.
Nice. And yeah, I'm Melissa. I'm 27. I still need to do the math on that. And I am a therapist, a pre-licensed therapist working towards my licensure right now. And I've been doing therapy for about 3 years. Yeah. So today we are going to talk about stress and self-care. I want to kind of talk about, I think self-care has evolved into somewhat of a monster of a thing where people are calling it self-care if they're like literally doing anything. Even if it's not great. I think there's some bad examples of self-care out there. And it's kind of being taken advantage of, I guess. But
The idea is
yeah,
being warped, you would say?
yeah. And then there's this idea that like people do self-care wrong. I have clients that'll tell me that they feel like they're doing their self-care wrong, and whatever that means. But yeah, so we'll just kind of get into
I got a question.
some of those things. Yeah.
And it's not to do with the topic, actually. Sorry to take us right off the rails here at the beginning. These podcasts, do you have a special work? So this is number 2. Mm-hmm. Is it just podcast number 2, episode number 2?
Well, I like sessions. We'll call them sessions.
You can do sessions?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is session number 2, stress and self-care?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Because when you go to therapy, they call it a session.
That's okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start with, what stresses us out? What are some stressors?
I think pretty typical things that most people deal with: money, pets, kids, family, in general. I don't know.
Well, so specifically for you, what about work stresses you out?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
I actually do pretty good at work when it comes to dealing with stress. Other than just getting there with everything I need, I'm all right. I don't feel the stress so much while I'm there, I guess I would say. Not to say that there aren't things that could be considered stressful. Working in law enforcement and in the military, it comes with situations you can find yourself in that are high stress, but the job itself, like what it is that I'm required to do, I don't typically find stressful, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Sure, I've been stressed at work, like I've been stressed everywhere, but I wouldn't blame work, any more than I would blame my home.
Yeah. What's stressful about home?
Again, it's just things we were just discussing. Bills are a pretty high stress thing for me. I'm constantly monitoring my credit score. Think about future future situations, to deal with money, like buying a house. We finally have one new car. We need another one. We eventually want to have children, the cost and stress of that.
Mm-hmm.
Those sort of things. But nothing that's coming to mind at the moment that is like super negative stress. I think in general, at least, unless it's pointed out, I can't think of anything that's super stressful on me right now.
Okay. What about you, Emily? What's some stuff that stresses you out?
I mean, mine are pretty similar. Of course, bills and the money and stuff that we need to provide for our children, and just, I guess, the children's school honestly stresses me. Yes, today, I don't know. I guess I don't feel like whenever I was in school that we had as much work or, I mean, my 6-year-old, he comes home and he has 4 or 5 stories he has to read, and then he has math homework, and then he has, English or, all this stuff. And I'm just like, man, he's 6. I feel like, I mean, granted, I guess that's more kind of his stress also, but as a parent, we have to make sure that our child has everything done and turned in on time. And then, the stress of having to just have it, I mean, everything turned in on time, and
It's like you're back in school.
it is. It is almost.
Yeah,
There are some times where I'm like,
would
oh my gosh.
Put me right into some stress right there.
Yes. Let's see. Sometimes, the relationship gets stressful, especially between, my husband working out of town periodically and whatnot. I mean, that can put unneeded stress on us, but I mean, nothing really, like he said, nothing really super.
I feel like I need to think about it. I just don't feel like I was really prepared to answer that question earlier.
The topic is stress.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking enough about it beforehand. Because I know I deal with stress. Obviously, we all do.
So I think that's a good example, and we'll circle back around to it, of the difference between stress and anxiety. So some of the stuff that stresses me out, work stresses me out. I have a lot of responsibility at my job, and just being a therapist in general is a little stressful because you worry about your clients and you hope that you're doing right by them and doing what you need. So that's kind of stressful as it is. And then having kind of a leadership role at work is stressful. But in a good way. I love what I do. I love the place that I work. And then, this time of year is very stressful, because we have so much family and friend family. And it's really hard to coordinate with everybody on where we need to be for the holidays and Halloween parties and, travel dates and stuff. So it's that for me gets a little stressful, and the money situation with affording what we need to, or want to afford, not necessarily need to afford for the holidays to do all the things we want to do and that kind of thing. And then running a house is just stressful. Making sure everything's good.
Managing my time can be stressful. Personal time, mostly. Like you're saying, especially around the holidays. It's just finding the time to go spend with the people you want to spend time with.
Yeah.
Having to tell people you can't sometimes. Things like that. It really sucks. Especially when you have to back out of plans you made with people you don't see as often as you'd like. Mm-hmm. That can be stressful. That sort of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder to think about things that make us stressed, but it was really easy. We talked a lot about things that make us anxious.
Yeah, I guess
That's
you're
true.
right. I'm surprised that I'm having a harder time thinking of stressors,
Well, I know whenever
even though they seem obvious.
you were talking about just managing a household, I'm like, yeah, that does kind of stress me out. Making sure I get laundry done or this and that, or, even just dinner cook sometimes.
Yeah.
What are we having for dinner?
Again.
Just trying to get a dog inside when I have to leave the house.
Yeah. Yeah, or like one of your pets acting a little strange. Now you're stressed. Like, are they dying? I don't know.
Well, we just
Maybe
had to
that's
deal
a
with
little anxiety.
we just had to deal with we have a husky, Apollo, and we just had to deal with him having an eye problem. Mm-hmm. He just out of nowhere started having cloudy eyes and red, irritated eyes as well, and it's just so
Super weird.
yeah. Still don't know why it ever happened. We had to go take him to the vet and get him drops and pills, and he's doing okay now. But that was
Stressful.
That was
Yeah.
very stressful. You know, just come home one day and all of a sudden it looks like he's going blind.
Yeah.
Oh, it freaked me out.
So,
For sure. Okay. So, how do we deal with stress? What is your go-to self-care?
exercise.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah, I run a lot. Specifically running. Yeah.
You do run a lot.
That's something that I've been doing since high school. And I can still remember the first time I ever did it was because I wasn't ever really a runner. And I don't know if other than the fact that I do run, I wouldn't call myself a runner like I'm good at or anything like that. But when I was a teenager and, you know, I had a specific moment where someone close to me upset me pretty greatly, and not knowing how else to handle that, but feeling like I needed to do something physical to like express my frustration and anger and stress, I just took off running, and I wasn't wearing anything that probably should have been running in. Honestly, no shorts or running shoes. I had regular tennis shoes and like cargo pants, I think it was. It was nothing that you would exercise in.
Yeah.
But I just needed to do something to just let loose
Yeah.
the stress, to take my mind off of it and just like physically express it. And I knew hitting things wasn't going to help, or you know.
It's good that you knew that.
Well, I mean, so I can't say like as a kid I never like punched a pillow or something like that, but like didn't want to damage anything of my own, and I didn't want to hurt my hand or anything. I don't know. I was self-aware enough for that, but
Well, that's good.
but I just took off running, and I ran for a long time. I ran because like I lived near-ish a park and ran to that park, ran the trail it had, and I just kept going until I felt better. I remember the relief and how good it felt, just breathing heavy and just like not thinking about it anymore, what it was that was upsetting me. And it just, like a wave of euphoria just kind of washed over me, and I was like, I'm okay. Like the problem's not going to get me right now, you know? And I just, you know, cooled off, walked home. And from that point I realized running is a good solution for when I'm upset, and I've done it ever since. And I do it just for fun now. I don't have to be stressed out to run, but it definitely helps. And going to the gym, things like that as well. But I don't think there's anything that matches running for me, because I'm able to just get lost in my own head, thoughts, and just breathing, and it just comforts me. Yeah.
Emily.
Let's see. I mean, I do. I enjoy like going out for a walk or exercising when I feel stressed. But at the same time, I also like, as far as I guess self-care. I mean, just taking a bath and taking time for myself to, you know, collect my thoughts, and or, you know, on the weekends when my husband's home, you know, having some alone time and, you know, just running errands by myself instead of having to go run errands with 3 kids trying to, you know, grab stuff and put it in the cart and, you know, asking me or telling me, Mommy, I want this. So, to me, just sometimes my self-care is just having time for my, you know, to do stuff that I wanted to do, or crafting. That is also another big one that I do, is I like to craft a lot. So whenever I'm feeling stressed out and stuff, I mean, that's usually what I run to is, okay, I'm going to make something. Let's, you know, make this stressful situation turn into something, you know, fun. And so that's usually my go-to.
You know, I'm glad you said those things. It's like I went to automatically, like when I'm angry, what do I do?
Yeah.
I need to let out that energy. And
Yeah.
I do have other stress relievers because things stress me out in a way that doesn't make me angry
Yeah.
all the time. And, you talk about your crafts. Like, I like to paint miniatures.
Yeah.
That's something I got into just because it was well, first I just wanted to try it because I thought it looked cool. And I started doing it.
It's relaxing.
It takes a while. You have to concentrate, and
I couldn't do it.
but for me, it definitely it helps.
It's too small. Like I'd be so afraid that like I'd go and like to die like their eyeball or something and just be like, well, I'm done.
What I realized is like
that up.
what's nice about it is even when you mess up, you can fix it.
That's true.
Like paint just goes over paint, so it's not really it's not that bad. And then you're talking about shopping and everything, just going out and hell, every now and then I just go out to Target or literally anywhere, and I'll just walk. Because I just want to get out and I just want to walk around and
Be
distracted a little
I don't
bit.
buy anything. I don't know. Maybe that's weird, but like it feels nice to just get out and just move around and be outside.
Well, see, like my husband, he says the reason why I like to get out often is because right now, we moved into our home right before our baby was born, and it wasn't I guess your like typical situation and stuff. And so like, we're still slowly, progressively, like, getting things how we want it and stuff. And so right now, like the state of my house stresses me out. And so to get away from my house, and not have to worry about what's going on there, it helps, honestly. I mean,
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have enough space in this place that we're renting, and it's overwhelming to look around and see the clutter.
Yes.
See things that like I wish I could. Like I have so many things in boxes that I would love to be able to take out and display or use or whatever have you. But like there's just no room for it all.
I completely understand. Like the whole goal with moving into this house was that there was a shed in the back and that we were going to completely finish it, and that would be like my she shed or like my craft area. And so because in our old house I did have a craft room, but we also had one less child.
Yeah.
So we of course needed an extra room now, and so I have tons of my craft stuff in the storage shed, and we have a closet in our living room that's just overflowing with my stuff. And then I even have stuff in my bedroom and up in the attic and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's just sometimes crafting, it just frustrates me anyways, because right now I don't know where my stuff is.
Right.
So that's pretty common too when your self-care turns into something that's stressful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why like we're slowly working on getting things the way that we want. But again, you have to budget for it, and this and that, and just the fact that we do have 3 people that take up more, or 3 little people that take up room, not to mention we have a dog and my husband, but and I mean his hobbies take up space also. I mean, not a whole lot right now, it's just video games, but I mean, not having the room to display what you want, or it does.
You picture something in your head that you can't make happen yet.
Yes, it's extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
And then talking about like hobbies that help us, and this is a group activity. I just love, like, obviously
Board
this
games,
board
yeah.
games. We have a ton of board games here at the house, and we love having people over or going somewhere and bringing the board games, and people seem to be receptive of that. But like, that is another thing. I just enjoy getting lost in the games.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, I don't think we've turned down a game night yet. So.
Yeah, game nights are good.
Yeah.
Getting ready for game nights a little stressful.
That is so. That's a great example, because like I am personally stressed out about like the appearance of my house when I have guests over. We have a dog who sheds everywhere and all over our couch because it's a cloth couch. It just catches all the hair. So we're constantly vacuuming. We're constantly cleaning out litter boxes because we have 2 cats. So I stress out about the smell and the hair and just the general appearance of everything, the cleanliness of it all, because we do host things so often, and I just don't want to be. I don't want people to come over and think
And be uncomfortable.
yeah, like gross
Yeah.
or I don't know, just something negative. I don't want them to think negatively of the way that we live.
Yes.
Or, that maybe we don't care enough to make this a better environment for people coming over, that sort of thing. Like, we do care, and I want to show it, and so I stress that a little bit, and I think it's pretty obvious too, because I'll double check, hey, how's everybody doing, what do you think, and I'll apologize for little things that are bothering me about the way things look,
and other people don't even notice.
Exactly. But it is something that is obviously on my mind all the time when I have friends over. So much so, like, we have certain areas of the house a little blocked off. Like, don't go in there. Just this is the mess. Stay away from the mess. Everything that we moved out of this room so you could be in here is in there. So don't go there.
Yeah.
So sometimes your self-care can be a little stressful, but it shouldn't be. If your self-care becomes stressful, stop doing the thing for a little while.
Okay.
Keep it in the rotation, but I think that's important too, having a rotation of things, like a list. Like, if I do these things, then that's going to make me feel better. But having just one thing that you do isn't, like, it's not always going to work.
The one thing I really enjoy is these sorts of conversations. I wouldn't say podcasting necessarily because it's only our second one, but like there's a reason we're doing this is because we've had conversations in these veins before, where these topics will come up and we'll just start, providing our experience with these things.
Yeah.
That is a version of self-care that I am always on board to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just pointing that out. This is actually a stress reliever for me.
Yeah.
A self-care
talking it out
thing for me.
I think it's funny, Emily, you said baths. Yeah. I feel like if you ask any woman, their go-to is always, oh yes, I like to take a bath, or I'll have some wine. So, like, I'm always curious about why that is. Like, what is it about baths? 'Cause I can't take baths. I'm too tall. Like, I haven't had a bathtub that is deep enough.
I guess that's a benefit of being short.
Yeah. So baths are not relaxing for me because I'm like cold, and then I have to like shift, and then the other part of my body is cold.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
So just wait till you get pregnant, because then your belly's cold and everything else is warm. Yeah. I guess honestly, like, the only time that I really get to like take a bath is usually when okay. If my husband's home, then of course while he's home, like, everybody can still be up or whatever. But like, necessarily during the week, if I want time to myself, I don't know what it is. I guess it's just kind of like sitting in a hot tub. Like how just being secluded and just, it kind of just melts away.
The solitude, the quiet.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, just like, I guess if you want to go sit in a closet for a little while with the lights off, it's not the same thing. But
now, there have been times where I've had a very stressful day and I do go sit in my little closet and I'm just like, just quiet because it's nice and small and dark and just make everything small.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a friend, and whenever I couldn't find her, like, I would go in her house or whatever. If I couldn't find her, that's where she'd be, in the closet. Just laying down on the floor with the lights off.
This is news to me, guys. The closet idea is not something I'm used to hearing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's just sometimes it's just. Well, I go in there to pet Mara because she's rubbing herself on her shoes, and then I'm just like, this is nice. Just gonna sit here.
Where all our clothes are.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Have you ever just
walk-in closet?
Like, whenever you got home, like, from a long day of work or whatever, and you just kind of like sit in your car, you don't quite want to go in yet. You just kind of have that.
Okay, yes, I am very familiar with that. I do it almost every morning before I come in.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. You just
have
that.
So hard to come home to me.
No. You're usually asleep anyway. It wouldn't matter if I was inside.
But yeah, you just kind of have that, like, oh, it's quiet and peaceful and there's nobody around, and either you still have your music going or it's just completely quiet.
That's also why I like driving.
Yeah.
I don't usually drive in a rush.
Well,
either.
See, I don't like driving either, but I think that's why Matthew likes. My husband for the longest time was, of course, my brain skipped bit. He drove 18-wheelers.
A truck driver.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, something as easy as that. A truck driver. Yeah, he was a truck driver, and so he would be out, a week at a time or whatever, and I'm like, I'd feel like I would be so bored, but yet to him,
no. I'm sorry. I relate to that. Like,
yeah.
Before before I joined the Air Force, I was in the Army Guard, and I'd have to travel every month to that drilling location.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that long, like 2-hour drive. I just put on like an audiobook or
Yep,
something.
that's what he did. He listens to
podcast.
audiobooks, podcasts.
Yeah, and
Yep.
not usually music, I'll be honest. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't relax me as much. It's just like,
Oh, see, his thing is show tunes.
there you go. That's fine too.
That's awesome.
That is good. But like, anyways, I relate because
Yeah.
like that nice long slow drive to where I'm going with nothing else to bother me. I can just
Oh, see, now I'm
Let
one of those
the-
that like I'm constantly looking at like, okay, how much longer do I have to be in this? Like,
Yeah, I know. So I think I have bad ways of dealing with stress.
okay. Let's hear it.
So I'm a stuffer. Like I don't want to think about it. If I'm stressed, I'm like pushing it down. Like nope, not stressed. Not dealing with this. But so it ends up coming out in other ways though. And like retail therapy, I will go and I'll spend money and I'll be spending the money and I'll be like, I really don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
This is too much money. I shouldn't do this. And then I'm like, fuck it. It makes me feel good.
Yep.
So it's not good. And then definitely through like food and stuff, like Starbucks was when I was working at the inpatient hospital I was at. It stressed me out all the time. I hated being there. I didn't like it. It was just a pain in the butt. And I would treat myself at Starbucks. I'm like, this is how I'm doing self-care. Like this is how I'm getting through the day. No, it was a lot of coffee.
I was about to ask, how do you self-care for yourself during these situations?
What do you mean?
So like you were just talking about how you deal with stress badly. What are you doing?
So the retail therapy.
So you consider those self-care,
Yes.
even
yeah.
though you thought they were also negative.
Yes. I do not have good ways of dealing with stress.
Okay.
Because retail therapy, treats like food.
see, I'm guilty on both of those.
Yeah, I'll eat junk food. When I'm really stressed is when I crave like greasy fried foods. Like if I go and get just McDonald's fries, ask me what's wrong because there's probably something wrong. And then I used to, and I actually like kind of caught myself doing this and I was like, I don't know that I want to do this anymore. So I stopped. But I realized that I was really stressed and I was drinking too much. Not to the point where I felt like I was an alcoholic, but when I would realize I was stressed, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go home and have some wine. Like, that's probably not. And when I was like actually running through quite a bit every week, I was like, this is going down a road that I don't even want to entertain that being a future possible problem. So I just stopped drinking altogether. And that's been almost a year. And now I only drink when like it's special occasions, like weddings or holidays. Although I don't even think I had alcohol at New Year's. But anyway, so drinking was a bad habit. So retail therapy, treats with food, alcoholism almost. And then sitting in front of the TV and I'll just binge watch shit.
Oh, that is something I do.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not good. I
And then
spend so much time
and
just...
then you feel bad afterwards. You're just like, I didn't get
like,
anything done.
Let's say like on my days off, I tell myself I'm going to do so many things. And then what I end up doing is I get up, I go turn the TV on, and it doesn't matter what's on.
Yep.
I'll just watch something on Netflix or Hulu.
I watched all of MasterChef for no reason other than
It's something.
I didn't want to deal with whatever was going on.
Right. And I'll
Like-
just sit there and I'll just absorb it and just shut my brain off. And before I know it, the whole damn day has passed. Speaking of like drinking and everything, so like, as I've gotten older, I've gotten into drinking more whiskeys and
Sophisticatedly?
well, no, I wouldn't say that, but I drink a lot more whiskey now instead of like beer and stuff. But what's funny is, so like I haven't had to deal with like the idea of alcoholism or anything like that. I don't believe, but
I don't think I'm an alcoholic.
I don't know. But like, it's never even come to me, but thinking about it though, I have had very similar thoughts of like, I can get home and I could drink and that would be nice.
Or I'm going to spend the whole weekend just drinking.
Yeah. So what's funny is because of my hours, it prevents that from happening. The hours that I work
That's true.
are,
Be weird if you had whiskey.
that's what I was going to say. Like, so like I've been at work. And so for anybody listening, I work from typically 10 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock in the morning. And while I'm there, I'll be thinking, man, it'd be nice. I could just go home and get a glass of whiskey or something like that and sit down and, you know, watch some TV or something. I get home and I could, but it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, no, I can't. No, you know, once I get there, I'm like, no. And then by the time I'm up and I've been ready, my day has started and everything, it's already within a window of going to work that's too close for me to start sitting down and having a glass. So like where most people I think they'll get off at like 5 o'clock at night and they've got until maybe 10 to relax and before they go to bed. I don't have time to sleep off anything I drink.
Mm-hmm.
True.
If I wake up and do that, I go to work when everybody's going to sleep.
So just pretend that 7 a.m. is 7 p.m.
Can't do it. And then because I can get it out of my head that that's just like, nope, that is an alcoholic. You know, 7 a.m. drinking. No, you got a problem. I mean, I know there's no real difference, but in my head there is.
Yeah. I think the one way that I cope that is good is I'm a planner, and I will plan things down to the very last detail, and that helps me kind of like get some control over it and not stress so much, like Christmas coming up or an event that we're doing. Mm-hmm. Make it
well, you know
like
what,
a big plan.
When we didn't have our finances in such such a good situation, like I don't want to say it's great now, but it's way better than it used to be. Mm-hmm. When we were a lot harder up and I would realize like I am not able to pay bills, like this bill or that bill, or I had to pick one or something.
Yeah.
And I just realized, well, shit, the other one's just going to have to go until the next payday before I can touch it. I don't know if this is good or not, but like I'd be like, well, fuck it. You know, like I can't help it, so I won't. I'll just ignore it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things to do is just realize that in situations like that where you can't do anything about it, to just let it go.
Right.
See, no, I crave
and that's
control.
exactly what I do.
And see, yeah, I'm the same way. I want things to be a certain way, and I've been in those situations where, you know, you can't pay the bills and, you know, the water gets turned off or electricity gets turned off, and then you're like, crap, what am I going to do? So, definitely, I mean, I don't really know where I was going to go with that.
No, it's okay.
But I mean,
but letting it go, yeah, it is. And obviously, that's
I don't
what
know
would
if it's healthy or
teach.
not, but like I try not to think about it until it needs to be thought about again, because I can't do anything with that information.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously, yes, I cannot pay it. I've acknowledged this. Moving on.
Yeah, acceptance, absolutely, and that's what I would teach my clients: is accept it. It is what it is. Like, just figure out how you're going to move on, and maybe not get in that position the next time.
Right.
But personally,
it's hard.
I'm a big old hypocrite. I can't do that because I stay stuck on it, and maybe that's my anxiety kind of coming in with the whole like I need to be good at everything, and I need to have control over everything. But it's really hard to just kind of to let it go. But you guys are absolutely right. If you stay stuck thinking about a problem and how awful the problem is, it's not going to change anything. It is what it is.
Yeah. And
2, you're not doing anything but making yourself feel worse in an already crappy situation.
Yep. And so then pretty much anything else that happens throughout the day, you think of.
Yeah, it's like 10 times worse.
Yes. Yeah. At least to me, like usual stuff that would just like roll off my shoulders. But since I'm already stressed out and having a bad day, then every little thing feels like it's 10 times worse than it should have been.
Yeah. And I would like to say that like that's how I always react, but that's not even true either though. There are certain things that like instead of just accepting it, I guess it's sort of accepting it, I just shut down. Yeah. Like I just I try to stop thinking about it, but then I try to like I just kind of stop feeling. It seems like, I try to turn my brain off and if what feels like a negative way in retrospect of like I'm not going to think about this, I'm not going to think about anything, and I'll get nothing done after that. Like not necessarily that it matters, but like, I won't get up to go cook dinner or even eat at all until maybe somebody else comes home and starts initiating that, but I just wallow.
Yep. I was going to say, I've had days like that, definitely.
So like, it's not always my reaction, but I feel like when I'm able to think myself through it, I'm able to get there and be like, all right, you can't deal with that right now because it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
the other side of me is like, all right, you can't deal with that right now. Let's not deal with anything
Well,
right
I was
now.
gonna say, well, honestly, like I understand how that could have a negative effect, but then there are days where I'm like, okay, I'm taking a day of where, you know, I don't want to look at Facebook. I don't want to
yeah.
deal with any, you know, problems. You know, I just want to turn my phone off and just be quiet the day.
Yeah.
Like I don't want. So yeah, I definitely go through days like that, and to me that feels kind of like self-care in a way. You know, I understand like how shutting things out could. Again,
You're drowning
be
out the
negative.
noise. though.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So I think
But-
what matters with self-care is intention. Like, are you sitting down and binge watching TV because you're like, I'm exhausted and I want to watch something mindless? Or are you sitting down to binge watch TV because you're like, I can't do anything else and I'm a terrible person, so let me just sit here and do this?
Oh no.
I'm
See,
worthless.
yeah.
I'll do worthless things.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
are you shutting everything down and
No.
shutting off
Yeah, no.
because
I have.
you're like, fuck this, I don't want to deal with anything? Or are you like, okay, I need to just not deal with anything today?
Yeah.
So I think going into it intentionally and mindfully really matters.
Yes.
You know, you talked about retail therapy before. One of the things I do a lot is I spend a lot of time on Amazon.
Yeah.
I have a ton of list of things I want to get. And I would say I probably spend a little too much on it. But what I also do to try and prevent that is I'll just throw things in my cart.
Yep.
I'll
And
just
wait.
throw it there and like, yeah, I want this. I can't get this for myself. I can't buy this, but it's there. Just knowing I could click continue is nice, but I won't typically. If I do, it's after subtracting great deals of things out of that cart.
I was saying,
But-
yeah, I'm guilty of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I was like, retail therapy is definitely real and something that I find myself doing as well. Just typically not in person. I have a lot more self-control if I'm at the store than I do if I'm online.
Well, see, I'll start out, like when I get to the store, I'll start out with like putting a bunch of things that I would like or whatever in my cart. But usually by the time I end up at the register, there's like 2 or 3 things.
There you go. So it's sort of the same thing I do on
Yeah.
Amazon, where I throw it all in the cart
Yeah.
and then I narrow it down to what I
Yeah.
can actually afford and
I know. Yeah.
really
no.
want.
Usually before I end up at the register, I'm like, okay, I need to sit here and evaluate. Like, what do I really?
That's good because I'm just like, fuck it.
Well, I know. Well, I know, because
There's a return policy for a reason.
I know.
And oh my
Well,
God, do you use it?
I emotionally shop. It's
No,
terrible.
I was gonna say I can. Yeah, me and her have gone shopping to Target before, and her cart. Yeah, like she'll have a bunch of different stuff, and I'm like, okay, do you need to sit and like think about what you're about to purchase? And she's like, nope. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna sit here for just a second and think about what I'm purchasing.
Because if I start thinking, then nothing
yeah.
happens, and I'm just like,
Well,
I don't
see,
need any of this.
Well, there's days that I have, especially shopping with the kids. There's a lot of days that happens where I just get overwhelmed by how they're acting or this and that, and I'm just like, nope, fuck it, we're leaving. Like
Just
I
leave
just,
the
I don't-
basket
Yep, I just
in the aisle. You're done.
Yep.
Kind of walk away.
get in the car. We're going home.
Yep.
Screwed up. Turn this car around.
Yep.
Yep. I want to read something I found on Pinterest
Oh,
about it's just different types of
yay,
self-care.
Pinterest.
So
I know.
surprisingly, I get a lot of therapy resources off Pinterest. It's really interesting. Anyway, so this person made this cute little thing of all the different types of self-care. So there's physical, so sleep, stretching, walking, healthy food, yoga, and rest, which, is different than sleep. Yeah, okay. And then there's emotional, stress management, emotional maturity, which I guess is like reflection, forgiveness, compassion, kindness, social self-care, setting boundaries, reaching out to your support system, positive social media, communication, time together, and asking for help. Spiritual, time alone, meditation, yoga, nature, journaling, and being in a sacred space. Your personal self-care, hobbies, knowing yourself, your personal identity, and honoring your true self. Your space, safety, healthy living environment, security and stability, and organized space. Financial, saving, budgeting, money management, splurging, see it's on there, paying bills. And then work, time management, work boundaries, positive workplace, more learning, and break time. What I really liked about this one was that these are things that are ongoing. So I think a lot of times we think of self-care as like this one and done thing. Like if I'll just take a bath and it'll be fine.
Treat yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like on there, it has boundaries. you are absolutely taking care of yourself and doing self-care every time you set a boundary or enforce a boundary with someone or with your time. So making sure if your workday is done at 5, you leave at 5. That is self-care.
Yeah. I think, like we've been discussing, like it can turn into something that's not healthy if you take it to the extremes, like putting up walls or boundaries between you and certain people that you might actually want to try and mend relationships with, other than just like cut off, would be good. An example of like maybe taking that a little too far. Same thing with work. You know, you might have to put a little extra time in at work sometimes.
Yeah.
But don't make it your life.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Like everything in moderation. Exactly.
It's all about balance. Yeah. And like it has sleep on there. So making sure you're protecting your sleep time. But
Don't
if you spend
oversleep.
a lot of time sleeping, you're going to feel bad.
Right. Yeah. So I like this list.
Yeah. And I also liked that it had like knowing yourself, personal identity, and emotional forgiveness or emotional maturity. So yeah, spending some time figuring out who you are. Because in our last one, we talked about asking for what you need, but you can't communicate what you need unless you know what it is. And you're only going to know what you need by checking in with yourself.
So introspection is a valuable tool.
Yeah. So spending some time journaling and stuff. Yeah. And then forgiveness was on here. And I thought that was interesting. So not only forgiving yourself, but like forgiving other people. The idea of like, just let it go. Like you can't control it. It's something that's already happened.
Yeah.
Like just move on for yourself, not for the other person, not for anybody else, just for you. Just move on.
It's not worth holding on to.
Yeah.
It does you. It's harming you more than it is anything else.
Yeah. Or you made a mistake at work, or you said something stupid to a friend. Like it's done. Do
That
what you
is a
can.
great example of something I have a hard time with.
Yeah.
Whenever I embarrass myself, I dwell on that.
Yep.
For a long time. I'll end up, if I just say something in a weird way, sometimes I'll overthink that to death. And like I'll keep like replaying it in my head. I'll even repeat what I said that I thought was stupid, just to remind myself how stupid that was.
Anxiety.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but like I have found myself doing that. I'm drawing a blank right now as an example, but like it has happened before.
Oh, no.
Like, especially like first impressions I'm trying to make with people, and I feel like I come off as an idiot. Just
Well,
like,
see, I have that issue a lot because sorry for interrupting.
oh, you're good. No, you're fine.
But no,
I've
like
been doing it to you the whole time. See,
I am really bad about like, okay, I can be a very awkward person. Like if you don't, especially because like whenever you first get to know me, like I'm sometimes quiet, like, but I'll try to input, into conversations, and sometimes it comes off, great, and then sometimes it's just like, okay,
yeah.
like, but then, so yeah, I'll go home and be like, yeah, I should have done that. Like, what was I thinking? So yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying on that, where you overthink what you've said or how you've said stuff. Because yeah, there's been plenty of times where I'll like make a little, do like a little voice or something like that, and I'm like, what was I doing?
Right.
Yeah.
You tried too hard.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I have an example of that. I had a client, and they were part of the LGBT community, and I have like this little pride flag in my office.
I feel like you didn't use enough letters.
And they commented on that or something. And I even forget what this person was coming in to see me for. But I said something, and I could tell that it upset them. And so I asked, I was like, what happened there? What's wrong? And they said something, and man, I wish I could remember exactly how it went. It's a terrible story. But the person was like, oh, it sounds like you're saying that, being LGBTQ plus, whatever,
There you go.
Is a choice. And I was like, oh no, that's not at all what I mean. Like, that's not what I was saying. I tried to rephrase it, but I could tell like that was gone. And I was like, this person's never going to come back to see me. It's like my worst nightmare. And I was right. The client did not, they canceled their second session and haven't been back. And it took so much self-talk and like encouragement or support from my other coworkers to not reach out to that person and like continue to apologize. Because I was like, I just need to let it go.
It's like
but
we were saying, yeah.
I feel so bad, but it's done. Like there's no amount of me saying that's not what I meant is going to make them feel more comfortable now. And that really sucks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So I did not reach
Right.
out and pester that person because probably would have made things
I
worse.
think that was the right move.
Yeah.
Let them move on.
Yeah. Find someone else they're more comfortable with. But even today, like, honestly, I still feel pretty bad about that. Even if I can't remember the exact details, I remember how it felt.
It's okay.
And I was like, man, that sucks. I walked out of that session knowing like they're never coming back here. But
You can't always. The message you're sending doesn't always get received the way you want it to, and
Yes.
sometimes that just happens. And like you said, no matter how many times you can try and rephrase it or apologize for the miscommunication, it's out there.
yeah,
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
So you just gotta let it go sometimes.
let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah. Yep. Coming back to that radical acceptance is what it is. Yeah. All right. So we only have a little bit more time. Let's circle back to, do you think that people have gone too far with self-care? Do you think it's,
In general,
do you think it's like turned into this thing where anything you do is considered self-care?
I think it's definitely talked about a lot more. I don't know if going too far is the right word, but I think to me, people think it encapsulates more than it does sometimes. Like literally anything you do can be self-care according to certain people. And like we've discussed already, it generally depends on to what extent you are doing said thing, and the effects of that thing. So I know that sounds super vague and not like, but it's true. Between putting up boundaries between people, getting enough sleep as opposed to too much sleep. I don't know. It's hard to say. I've seen it in my life where I think people will use the excuse of self-care to be selfish or think, I guess selfish is really the best word for it. Just think only of their own feelings and what makes them happy, because they've gotten to this mindset of like what is self-care to me is what should be paramount, which I don't think is true. I think that self-care needs to be managed with care of others as well. You should always keep in mind how and what you're doing is affecting those around you, because never, in my opinion, at least for me, it is not worth, or there's a fine line between taking care of myself and doing something that might upset others. I don't need to, what are the words here? I don't need to push things in a direction that are going to put up boundaries or issues with people that I care about just to make myself feel better. I should find a healthier way of making myself feel better.
Yeah, your self-care.
I know I
should be
rambled on a
harmful
lot
to
there.
someone else.
I was trying to work my way through that thought, but
yeah.
essentially, yes. Be good to yourself, but don't be good to yourself don't be, what am I trying to say here?
At the expense of others?
Yeah, don't ever, in my opinion, I don't think you should, put yourself over everyone else in your life.
Yeah.
There needs to be that balance. And I know that was word salad I just threw out there. It was just everything. I just trying to work my way through that thought is essentially, you say it.
I mean, I get what you're trying to say. So, like, an example.
I'm going to be thinking about this later, how I just fucked this whole thing up.
Like, hypothetical situation. Say, my husband comes home every, night from work, and instead of, staying home and, cooking dinner and making time for family and stuff, if as soon as his feet walk in the door, I walk out. Because that's self-care. I want time for myself. I've been home with kids all day, blah, blah, blah.
But now you're isolating him.
Yes, and now I'm isolating him. So
Exactly.
So, I mean, I
An example would have been better than me rambling just then, yes.
You're fine. Jeez.
But yeah, I mean, so at the extent of, wanting self-care for myself, but then I'm also hurting my relationship with my husband by not spending time with him.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's like, just be aware of the effect you're having on other people
Yes.
while trying to provide yourself self-care.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think it becomes bad. I get bad, whatever.
Harmful.
Unhealthy.
Okay.
I think is what I'm going for, is when you're using self-care to distract, which is fine. It's good, right? Sometimes we can't always be inside our heads and inside our problems, but eventually you have to circle back around to the thing that's making you do the self-care in the first place. You can't just continuously do self-care.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Like self-care
Should be leading you to the
Yes.
solution,
Yeah.
not
I think-
keeping you from it.
like we kind of just talked about, there are things that you do every day to like take care of yourself, you know, leaving work when you're supposed to leave work, not just, you know, working overtime constantly. But if you know something's like really stressing you out and you decide to go and do a thing, like go have a spa day, whatever, when you're done with that and you're feeling better and you've kind of come back out of it a little bit, you got to go back to the thing that was stressing you out.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, especially, I know, again, as an example, like money. Money stresses me out, budgeting. And so, yeah, I'll do things in order to, I guess, avoid the situation or have time for myself. But eventually, I'm going to have to do that regardless of, you know, how I feel about it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, yeah, so like it can affect you and other people if you just decide to stay in that self-care mode.
Yep.
The other thing that'll affect your self-care is if you're, and I saw this quote, I think again on Pinterest, but it was, your outer care doesn't match your inner dialogue. And I thought that was really important because what I was talking about a minute ago with being intentional in your self-care, like if you're going to make the choice to go sit down and watch TV, like just do it and be okay with yourself. Don't sit there and while you're trying to do this self-care, think about how terrible you are. Like Emily, if you went to go take a bath and the entire bath time you're sitting there calling yourself a terrible mom, like you should be out there with your family, whatever. It's not self-care. It's not going to work.
No.
No,
Yeah.
definitely
So
not.
being intentional in it and having that match your inner dialogue, all the things that you're telling yourself and telling like,
So just
whatever.
because you say this makes me feel better doesn't make it make you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be intentional. Like I had to stop drinking, you know, because when I would drink, I would be like, oh, I feel like
better.
I'm doing this wrong. Like I don't feel good. I was starting to feel really nauseous and stuff. And I was like, this isn't making me feel good. Like, why am I doing this?
Right.
So that's why I stopped. What's these?
Bless you.
Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So your outer care doesn't match your inner dialogue. Be intentional in your self-care. Allow yourself to do whatever it is that you're going to do, and be okay with that. Don't be hard on yourself for taking that time. But then also, you know, incorporate your self-care into your everyday. It's an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a balance as well.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
I think I've expressed enough thoughts.
Even you have expressed them well.
Not terribly.
Emily, any final thoughts on that?
I mean, I completely agree. And I honestly feel like I need to reevaluate self-care. Because whenever, you know, you really, or at least when I think about it, I do think about stuff like, you know, retail therapy or taking a bath and stuff like that. Like, I guess I didn't realize just the little things that you can do day to day for self-care that don't necessarily have to interrupt your daily life.
And that actually reminds me, one of my clients was talking to me about self-care, and she was telling me that she hates cleaning, and she hates spending like a day a week cleaning her whole house.
I wish.
It stresses her out. She hates it. So what she does is just 10 minutes every night. She just picks something and cleans it 10 minutes every night before she goes to bed, does it. And she doesn't necessarily want to do it, but that protects her from having to give up a whole day. So it's a weird, like, not necessarily self-care because it doesn't make her feel super good, but it is self-care because it prevents a worse thing from happening.
Okay, I can understand.
That seems
Yeah,
good, yeah.
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 You know, what's funny is like you were talking about earlier, and this kind of popped in my head about be careful with your self-care. Know when it becomes not self-care. You know, it's only self-care for as long as it's working. and go back to the miniatures. I love painting the miniatures and everything. And typically I feel very relaxed and non-stressed while I'm doing it. But I got really into it, and I started wanting to have more and more of them done by a certain point. Mm-hmm. And I realized putting a time frame on how quickly I can get through them was exactly what I didn't find self-caring about at all.
Yeah,
like
you started getting stressed out.
Yeah, when I realized I was putting a time limit on myself or an expectation of when things should be done, I wasn't having the relaxed feeling I was getting when I initially started. So I've stepped back from doing that, and I am taking my time with them once again, and like getting all the detail work done. Worried less about the amount as far as that are done, and more about the quality of the ones I'm working on at any one given time. Mm-hmm. So for me, I had to come to that realization because I just wanted to have more and more done, to show off, essentially. Like, hey, I'm really proud of this. Look at this cool thing that I can do. And really, that was kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun to show off. It was stressful to get there when I didn't start doing it for that. So
Yeah. Yep. That's why it's good to have your kind of like more of like a list or toolbox.
Sure.
Whatever people like to call it.
Of things to
toolboxes.
rotate through. Mm-hmm. So like reading, painting, playing a video game, going out for a walk, anything.
Yeah. Even retail therapy, but like,
Yeah.
again, being mindful and intentional.
On your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not setting yourself up for a future stress.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be back with more.
Goodbye.